Welcome to Northwest Profiles, a look at people, places, and events of interest in the inland Northwest.
For most of the 20th century, this man has been traveling down country roads and neighborhood streets.
I've driven, I would say, close to 3 million miles in my day.
And he has visited over 1 million people. He is plying a trade that is not seen much anymore. This man, Mackey Brown, is a traveling salesman.
I've done sales work all my life. I don't know anything else but sales work.
And what products has Mackey sold?
Just about every small item that a household would use. From light bulbs, extract, fish, groceries, and even pianos and things like that, refrigerators, washing machines, all things that's used in the house today.
In Mackey's early days, many rural residents looked forward to visits from salesmen. The visits provided contact with the outside world. Along with their wares, salesmen brought news and entertaining stories. It was a far cry from today's media-based society, where information about new products is immediate and widespread, and a visit from a salesman is considered intrusive. But not long ago, many now familiar items like radios, laundry machines, and fire extinguishers were introduced to us by traveling salesmen.
I'm gonna, like that, I'm gonna take this up here, put it out on top like that.
How about that?
Quite impressive. What if you had a bigger fire than that? What if you had a fire like this, right here? Now remember, if it runs off on your table, it won't hurt anything. I'm gonna strike a match to that and just show you what takes place. Now you watch, like that. Now that would start a fire, wouldn't it? See there? That's what halon is. Back then you had to create your sales talk to them. Because a lot of times they didn't know a hill of beans of about the merchandise they were buying. I remember many times in selling washing machines, I used to turn them upside down and show them the gear case all sealed in with oils of the washing machine, and put motors on gas engines for Maytag washers. I've done that after they got electricity. And just making little sales like that.
The salesmen of the early West needed to be a jack of all trades and even be willing to help out with chores around the farm.
I've had to do a lot of jobs to help out to build up to a sale, such as, maybe cook a dinner for people that's selling cookware, or apply oil to harnesses and things like that. I've even helped dig ditches to make sales, wire up houses, electrical wiring. It was a way of doing something for them to persuade them to sign a contract with me. To make a good salesman, I think first you must want to do what you're doing and enjoy what you're doing. Have a knowledge of the products you're selling, that it will do good for the people that you're talking to. And then get a price on it that you can make a little money at. I don't think a salesman is a salesman until he's put cardboard in the bottom of his shoes when he would wear his soles through. His foot would be on the ground if he didn't have something in there, because he doesn't have enough money many times to have sold his shoes. He put a little cardboard in the bottom of his shoes, and that would help carry him through the day. I've been out a lot of times, never had a dime in my pocket. Didn't know where my next dime was coming from, only from the sales I made.
Mackey's experiences have now been put into print. The 100th anniversary edition of Ripley's Believe It or Not features Mackey as the world's greatest door-to-door salesman, having knocked on over 1 million doors and having sold over $2 million worth of products. Mackey's accomplishments have also attracted the attention of the Guinness Book of World Records.
They didn't have a category of door-to-door salesmen. They said, well, no doubt, it's very impressive. Once that gets in door-to-door salesman, I'll be the tops in that, in the Guinness Book of World Records.
And Mackey has written a book of his own, entitled The Salesman and the Farmer's Daughter. The book's title pertains to a very special farmer's daughter named Grace Ferguson, who Mackey met in 1935.
Well, there she was. She knocked the props out from under me, really, by her look. She's a beautiful girl. I wrote her a letter one time, told her I'd like to bring out some ice cream or have some ice cream. Back then, when you courted your girl, back in those days, the whole family was there. I'd have to take ice cream for the whole family when I went. Well, we sat around the pot-bellied stove, coal oil lamp, and we would eat ice cream, and she'd make a cake or something like that. And that's how I met my wife.
Mackey's book contains anecdotes from almost 75 years of knocking on doors.
I got to thinking about the little instances that happened to me when I would talk to people. I didn't want to forget them. As the older you get, why, I think you forget a lot of things that otherwise would not be written. And I began to write little stories of what I encountered when I was a door-to-door salesman. My granddaughter told me, says, why don't you put this into a book? And it made me think. Well, then I began to have a different view on life, so I started writing it for a book.
The book features illustrations by Mackey's late brother Frank, who was known as the napkin artist, since he would draw his sketches on napkins while waiting in restaurants. And of course, there are Mackey's many stories, like the time his car was run over by a submarine, the time he sold an icebox to an Eskimo, and the time in Tennessee when Mackey sold cookware to a hillbilly couple.
The lady says, sure, in her southern brogue, I'd like to look at some good cookware. And she called her husband in there to sit down, and all the time that I was putting this display on, I noticed her husband chewed tobacco, something tremendous. And he just kept chawing away on that quid of tobacco in his mouth. All at once, out into one of the pans went the tobacco juice. It just hit the center of that pan. The first thing he said was bullseye. And he says, old woman, go in there in the cookie jar and get this man the money and buy these pots and pans. It's just one of those things that happens when you're out.
Mackey is now working on a second book, which will contain some of the stories he didn't get to in the first one. Though he is now semi-retired, Mackey continues to sell door to door. In doing so, he is preserving a dying art, but mainly he is simply pursuing his life's passion.
I worked in a grocery store when it first started out in 1928, but I didn't like it. It was too close in. Everything was too closed up for me. I had to get out. It's just like a lot of people tell me they can't sit behind the desk. They like to get out in the open. Well, that's what I like, talking to people.
If you have a topic for Northwest Profiles, send it to KSPS TV, 3911 South Regal, Spokane, Washington, 99223. Northwest Profiles is a presentation of KSPS Public Television.